A trip to IKEA for the sauna frames, and I grabbed two in the 19-inch square size. Inside the frame itself is an inner shadow box structure meant to hold 3D items. Inside the frame itself is an inner shadow box structure meant to hold 3D items. Back at home, I took the frames apart to start on the brackets. Where to cut was easy to find by setting the shadow box frame inside the main frame and marking it with a pencil. Once trimmed to fit snugly and a little measuring for placement, I then attached them directly to the inside of the main frame using wood glue. Grabbed a couple of small clamps to hold everything together until the glue was set. Once the brackets were secure, I slid the two full frames together and glued them with wood glue. Just for peace of mind and extra sturdiness, I also added a few screws through the underside of the lower frame into the upper one. And that's all it took to create this great project, but let's dress it up a bit and customize it. Knowing the corner I was hanging this wall mount magazine rack in is typically dim, I added a battery-powered pendant light in the top section. All I needed to do here was drill a small hole in the top, feed the pull string through, and tie a knot so it stays put. Simple, but it gives off a nice subtle warm glow. To elevate the look, I used a peel and stick linen textured fabric on the bracket faces. It gives everything a soft, slightly textured finish, visually quiet, but purposefully designed. Just enough contrast to be interesting. Mounting to the wall was straightforward. I made custom dowel pegs by cutting some scrap square dowel down to size and adding hanger bolts into the ends. The frame itself just rests on top of those pegs. No visible brackets, no overcomplicated mounting hardware. Functionally, the shelves are perfect for slim items like magazines, books. It's decorative, but it's also useful and practical and fits near anywhere. Plus the look? Totally high-end modern gallery.
I found this old wooden box at a thrift store and I knew it had potential. First, I gave it a good sanding to smooth out the surface. Then we flipped it upside down and measured 1.5 inches in from each corner. That's where we drilled holes, just slightly smaller than the rope we were using. Next, we measured out the length of rope we wanted and then doubled it so that it was one long strand that would go from the front to back holes on each side. We threaded each end through the holes and tied a secure knot underneath to keep the box suspended and sturdy. Once the rope was in place, I gave the box a rich stain to bring out the wood's natural beauty. After it dried, we hung it on the wall using nails, letting the rope do the work to hold it up. And just like that, this simple thrift store find became a stylish, space-saving hanging table, perfect for a cozy reading nook, a bedside shelf, or even a plant stand.
To start this project, I want to get the frames ready. I'm going to remove all of the insides, including the glass. Next, I'm going to paint the frames. I like that the black will peek through, but I do want them to be mostly white. While the frames are drying, I want to paint some wood pieces that I picked up. These are a little thin, so I'm going to use some wood glue to adhere two together. To make the slats in my lantern, I'm going to use these little wood stir sticks. I'll paint these white with the same paint that I used on the frames. With the first coat of paint on all the pieces, it's time to start putting them together. I'm using hot glue to attach the 4 frames to one of the wood pieces, and then I'm going to glue them all together. Now that the frames are together, I want to start adding the stir sticks. I'm going to put the horizontal ones in first. I just need to snip it so that it's the correct length, and then I can put them in. To decorate the top of the lantern, I want to add a small rope handle. I have a little piece of copper pipe that's going to work perfectly with some thick rope to do that. All that's left to do now is add a little hot glue to the lid of the lantern and place the copper pipe into it. I love how easy this lantern was to make and how pretty it looks on my buffet. It's simple and charming all at the same time. I hope this has inspired you to grab some frames and make your own lantern as well.
Grab some photo frames from the dollar store, take some air-dry clay, and knead it for a few minutes with your hands so it softens and is easier to work with. Once the ropes are the length you want, cross them in the middle and then twist the ropes together to create one rope. Place this twisted rope on top of the frame and shape it to fit the L shape of 2 sides of the frame. Once the clay rope has dried, apply a small bead of hot glue to the top of the frame and glue the clay rope to the frame. Once secure, take some gold spray paint and give the entire frame a couple of coats of spray paint. Insert your favorite photo or piece of artwork and hang your new frame on the wall. Take another dollar store frame and apply a thin bead of glue to the top of the frame. Press some rope from the dollar store to the frame and hold until the glue has dried. Then give the entire frame with the rope on top a couple of coats of gold spray paint. Now get ready to get a little messy. Apply craft glue to a small amount of the rope and lay gold leaf sheets on top of the glue. The gold leaf will not lay flat and cover the entire rope, but rather bunch up on the puddles of glue. This is what you want. Fill your frame with artwork or a beautiful photo and display it proudly in your home.
Save a dresser from the trash and use a drawer for this brilliant front porch decor. I cut some of my favorite greenery and natural elements like these rose hips. I placed the drawer on my front porch and arranged the greenery inside the drawer. I trimmed the branches as needed and used the extra bits of greenery to fill up the drawer. I topped it off with some gold bells and a red velvet bow. I love how it all came together to make my front porch ready for the season. I hope this inspires you to decorate your front porch with an old drawer.
Give your old photos a new look with this simple trick. Start by purchasing your frames at the craft store. You want to look for frames that contain a matte picture frame with an opening for the photo within. Disassemble the frame and set the components aside. Then grab wrapping, butcher, or craft paper and cut to size using the mat from the frame as your template. Use an X-Acto knife and straight edge for the neatest cuts. Carefully attach the paper to the mat frame using double stick tape, glue, or spray adhesive. You can leave the frame as is or paint it to match your decor. If the frame has a glossy finish, you may want to lightly sand it so that the paint adheres to the surface. Use a foam brush and acrylic paint and layer on several coats, letting it dry thoroughly between the coats. Once the paint is dried, place your photo in the frame and reassemble. Then hang your frames where you can see and enjoy them. I hope this inspired you to take a second look at your basic frames and mats.
I recently ran across these great postcards I picked up while traveling, and I knew it was time to frame them. But rather than purchase something new, I thought, hey, let's dip into my scrapwood collection to make something fresh and custom for free. The bonus here, too, is I get to use up scrap wood. Right off, I found some pieces of 3/4-inch birch plywood, which were perfect. Scrounging around further, I found some leftover wood lath pieces as well. Luckily, the larger piece of plywood was already a great size for 2 of the postcards. Next was the wood lath, which I used for the sides to hide the edges of the plywood and also give this a shadow box type of effect. Rather than measure and measure, I marked where the plywood ended and cut the lath from there so the measurement would be exact. Instead of using any fasteners which would be seen from the side, I merely used wood glue to hold everything together. Once the sides were done, I began weighing some design options and decided to go with a piece of wood lath across the top but not across the bottom for a unique, unseen before look. A project like this is really all about creativity, using what you have and making something fabulous that no one else has. While the glue was drying, I dug around for some more scrap wood and found some 1/4-inch plywood as I needed to mount the postcards onto something. I traced the postcard onto the piece of wood and trimmed it down to size. With some spray mount lightly dusted across the back of the postcard, I then adhered it to the 1/4-inch plywood. Once my postcard was mounted, I used the wood glue to attach the little cutoff pieces to the back side. With the glue dried on the frames themselves, it was time to drill some holes in the back so I could hang them on the wall. You can certainly add hanging hardware here, but I went as simple as possible. At this point, you can stain the wood, paint it, seal it up as is, or in my case, I just left it bare. All that was left for assembly was to attach my artwork to the frames, where I again went with wood glue. You could also use hot glue for this, or if you want the art to be less permanently attached, use something removable. Okay, off to hang these up. After figuring out where on the wall I wanted these, I tapped in a few nails and I was good to go. Fabulous, right? Truly one-of-a-kind pieces that not only enhance the postcards, but make this area feel warm, which is exactly what I was going for. And all for free, thanks to my scrap wood pile.